Welcome to Taylorsville Elementary. Today we have with us Mrs. Stacy Hieb, who has been working at Taylorsville for many years, and we are honoring her as our hero of education. Stacy is a Read to Achieve teacher here at Taylorsville, and so she works with first through third graders.
And second, really. First, kindergarten, first and second.
Oh, okay, perfect. And helps them in areas that they struggle. So tell us a little bit more about what does a typical day look like?
It's called win time. So every grade level has an hour of what I need time. And in that time, we put children in smaller groups so that we can address their needs. If they have a need in reading or in math, we're very fortunate at Taylorsville because we have a math interventionist and then I'm the reading interventionist. So I have a schedule where I will pull 6 kindergarten children for 30 minutes, and then I will trade usually with the math interventionist, and he usually gets the 6 that I have, and then I take his 6. And so for that hour, I'm working with 12 kindergartners. And then when we move on to first grade, it's the same thing. I have 6 first graders, and then I will trade with the math interventionist, and the kids that need the help in reading most of the time need the help in math, that extra boost. And then I do the same thing in second. And also my day, I'm a reading recovery teacher, so during part of my day, I will pull the struggling, it's the bottom 20% of first grade, and I will take one child and work for 30 minutes intensively on reading. And so I look for things that child's having difficulty with, and I start with what the child knows, and then I build on that process. And I already have 3 students that are back in the regular classroom. They've discontinued with me, and they're on grade level.
Oh, wow.
So
that's a success.
That's a success story because I can work with them for 20 weeks. These children didn't need 20 weeks. Sometimes they only need 12 weeks. They just need that one-on-one attention. And when you count up the hours, if you count 30 minutes every day, some of the kids, I may only work with for maybe 25 hours, but they get on grade levels. So it's very rewarding to see that what you can do in a 30-minute time period with a child one-on-one, and then that success transfers back to the classroom and they're able to succeed. And then I pull the next lowest children, and whoever the next one, that's the one that I'm working with right now. I have 4 students that I'm working with, and one student in 6 weeks, his 20 weeks will be up. I will test him to see if he's on grade level, and then I'll pick up another student. And then in second grade, I have a +1 teacher. This is new with the RTA grant. I have a teacher I collaborate with in second grade. And so I go in her classroom and I teach a small group guided reading while she's doing a guided reading lesson, and then the other kids are in stations. So we kind of collaborate together and work together, and I found that that's very successful because they not only have one teacher, but they have another teacher, and what I might bring to the table is something different than the classroom teacher would bring. And so it helps because children learn differently. So you have to try to find the way that the children learn best.
Sure.
So, and it's kind of rewarding to see from my kindergarten to my first graders to my second graders to see the growth over time, because I get to work with those grade levels. It breaks my heart when a child says, I don't like to read. And it's like, but then when I say, oh, I love to read, do you have any books for me? It's like, that's wonderful. I just can't get over the power that, we have here to try to introduce kids to books that haven't had that experience. So it's wonderful to see a child pick up a book and read. I have a child right now that is a senior, and she was one of my first years of reading recovery, and she has just made such tremendous gains. She's working at McDonald's to try to help her family. Her dad is having difficulty health-wise, so she's trying to help with the family, and she's going into the medical field, which she talks about how, she used to struggle as a reader, but now because she learned to read, endless opportunities. So I'm very proud of, all my students, but to hear them come back and say, I learned to read, and now I can do anything, so that's a wonderful testimony to, being able to just teach a child to read. It sounds so simple, but it's so difficult.
Oh, I'm sure. I can't imagine.
It's not easy because every child is different, and you have to address each individual need. Every day I spend a lot of time analyzing their running records. I analyze my lessons and I reflect on that. So what do I need to teach tomorrow? And no child is the same. So every day it's a different learning process and a different plan for tomorrow's instruction, because nothing's the same, because you've got to address what they need and where the child is. All the children are different, and the way they learn is different, and what works for one child will not work for another child. So you have to keep working from what they know and build on what they know, and how can I get them from this step to the next step? How can I get them from learning this word to learning this word? So in reading, and fluently, make it sound like you're talking, and give them that expression, and have them want to read out loud, because a lot of them, because they're having difficulty with reading, don't want to read out loud. And I want them to read with expression. Think about if you were the animal or the character, so that they can hear a person read and how it should sound. That's important for children also. They need to hear good readers. So I do a lot of buddy reading with my kids one-on-one in here.
Okay, gotcha.
Years. And it was called Spencer County Elementary from 2000 to 2005. We only had one elementary and one middle and one high school at that time.
Okay.
So when I went to school here, we only had one school, K through 12. So Spencer County, has been one of the growing communities. So now we have a high school, a middle school, and 2 elementaries. So very fortunate that both of our schools have a Read to Achieve teacher. So Spencer County Elementary has a Read to Achieve teacher, and Taylorsville Elementary has a Read to Achieve. But from 2000 to 2005, I taught at Spencer County Elementary, because that was the only elementary in the county. So then in 2005, they developed Taylorsville Elementary at the old middle school. So we went back in 2005 and we started Taylorsville Elementary, and we had Spencer County Elementary. So we had 2 elementaries, and I've been teaching at that old elementary. We were promised that we were going to have a new building in 3 years. Well, that was 2005. So 2017, we kept hearing we were going to have a new elementary.
Oh, wow.
So we did. We built a new elementary. So I was excited that maybe I would get to teach in that building before I retired.
Sure.
So I'm able to teach in the building before I retire.
And has it been everything that you hoped and dreamed it would be after such a long
There's still some things that they're working on, but it's I didn't have heat the first part of the year, so and I didn't have air condition the first part of the year, but it's been a work in progress. And I have a mirror that you see back here. And as a reading recovery teacher, I teach behind the mirror, and a child and I are on one side, and it looks just like a mirror. The kids just think they're looking in a mirror. But on the other side, there'll be 18 to 20 teachers observing us, and the kids don't know they're there.
Wow.
So, and then that's a learning experience for teachers, because then we look at the child and the teacher and what things happened, and then we reflect on it, and we think about our children, and it's like a professional development. It's called continuing contact. So I learned so much from that. We do this almost every month. We go to a different school that has a mirror, and we watch someone teach behind the mirror. And then we talk about it, and we talk about our children and what happened, and how can we improve our teaching back at our school, and what can we do the same or differently that would help our children. So that's an important area. I feel like professional development is something that our schools really need, because I've been fortunate enough to be involved in programs that I could learn professionally from others and reflect on my teaching and improve, but the state wants to cut professional development. And
really?
I see that is something so important for teachers, because you do need to network with other teachers, and you do need to talk about what you're doing. Is it working? What are you doing at your school? Your math scores are going up. What's working? Tell me, share with me what you're doing that your kids are succeeding. So I think that that's an important piece that the state of Kentucky is not looking at because they're wanting to drop professional development. So that's kind of sad because I think it's important. I went to college on a scholarship to be a dietitian. And I was in my clinical process, and I was in going in hospitals to work. And I took an elective class, and it was on children's literature. And I took that elective class and had to read 250 children's books, which I love children's books. And I fell in love. And my professors that I had that elective class said, "Have you thought about being an elementary teacher?" And I said, "Well, I've always taught Sunday school to little kids. I've always been a vacation Bible school teacher. I've always worked with kids, but I hadn't thought about that." So then I switched, and I was able to still graduate in 4 years, even though I changed majors, completely flipped everything. And I haven't been sorry. I went into elementary ed and haven't been sorry that I did that. And I kept thinking, why did I go into dietetics? And then I realized later in life, my dad became diabetic. So I knew about the foods and how that worked with the diabetics. So I thought, that's why I had a plan that I was a dietitian. And I learned that. And I used it later in life, even though I didn't go into finish my dietetics, being a dietitian. Still was important. So there was a plan. I was supposed to learn that so I could help my dad later in life, but I'm glad I ended up being an elementary teacher.
Wow, that's amazing. And that's so inspiring to hear.
Yes, it all works out because there's a plan. You don't know at the time what's his plan, what's it going to do, but it all works out because you realize later it's like, that was meant to be. It started with our Read Across America in March with Dr. Seuss. And those nights became so powerful to bring families in, and they got to see The Cat in the Hat, and they each received a book. And Class Act has been so wonderful to support us because in Spencer County, our association, we don't have a lot of money. So we partner with Class Act, and they come out and help us pass out books. So we want every child to go home with a book because a lot of our kids don't have books at home. So we want every child to have books in their home that they can read. And that's been so important that we bring the parents in, we bring the children in, we provide opportunities for the parents to learn how to help their children at home, what types of questions to ask while they're reading to their children. We provide them math nights where that they can help their children with math because we are doing Engage New York, which is a new math program. And a lot of times the way we learned it is not the way we're teaching the kids today. So just because you learned it one way, there are other ways to teach math and reading. So we want to bring the parents in so that they can find out how we're doing it here at school, so that they can see when the children go home and say, we're using these counters or these 10 frames, and the parents are like, what's that? So then the parents know because we're explaining it what we're doing here at school so that they have an idea. So it's very important to keep that partnership between parents and the students in the school so that everybody is on the same page and we're working together because parents have been their teacher for 5 years before they come to us. So they are experts and we need their expertise to help us with what we're doing. Yes, we've been doing home visits. I did home visits when I first started teaching. I was in a research project with the University of Louisville, and we realized how important it was to do home visits with our families so that we knew exactly where our children were coming from and the parents would see us. A lot of times parents have a bad experience at school, so when we can meet on their territory and we can make it non-threatening, and it's just, we want them to know that we want their help. We want them to know that we value them and it's not a bad experience. So we're trying to encourage parents to come to school, that it won't be a bad experience, that we want them there. We're trying to help. It's not something they should be afraid of. And meeting them at their homes in the summer, we do a lot of home visits in the summer before school starts. We want the kids to see that, we're regular people too. So when we go to their house, they're so excited. going to board meetings and being an advocate for teachers and an advocate for kids. Just like I wanted to make sure that we continue the Dr. Seuss, we have Soup with Seuss, and that's not only for teachers, but that's for our families and for our children, to make sure that we had enough people participating so that we had that parents felt comfortable, kids felt comfortable, that there was an exciting night, they wanted to come, and it's been building year after year, and more parents are participating because of word of mouth, and it's fun, and you get a book, and you get to see the Cat in the Hat.
And you get to meet them in person,
yes,
right?
And we get to eat, so you
It's a
can't beat
win-win,
that.
yeah.
I mean, it's food, it's free, it's fun. I mean, you can't beat that. Well, teaching is a wonderful profession. I think that a lot of people are scared of going into teaching now because of the idea that maybe the retirement's going in a 401k instead of the teacher retirement system, which we were a defined contribution, and it worked. I mean, I've been to the retirement system to check on things. The money is there. We had health insurance. The money was there for health insurance. But teachers need to know that this is a wonderful profession. It's very rewarding. It's not the best paying job, but the reward that you receive by teaching a child, it's worth it. And I don't want to see people not go into the field of education because they're worried about financially down the road, will this be able to sustain over the years, and will I be able to retire and have money? Because we're not in it for the money, or we'd be in another profession. But you still think about that, because someday you want to retire and you want to make sure you've got a retirement that you have worked so hard for. And it is a good profession if you like it. But if you don't like the profession, then you do need to switch to something else, because I wouldn't recommend anyone doing this if they're miserable. I love what I do, and that's why I stayed with it for 33 years. If I didn't, it wouldn't be good for the kids. It wouldn't be good for me if I didn't like it, and I wouldn't suggest you do that. But if you do love it, I want you to stay with it, because that's what kids need, someone that loves it, someone that really wants them to succeed and will push them to be their best. Because when they first come to me, they'll say, I don't like reading. And then when they leave me, they love to read.
Wow.
And that to see that transformation is very rewarding.